Ellsworth Anthony back at GoSec 23. This is, we're coming to the end of the day now. We're setting up actually, there's the Harper presentation. So our ex-Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, will be giving a presentation. But before we get to that, I'm actually sitting down with Christopher Reynolds from OVH Cloud. Chris, welcome to GoCast.
Thank you very much, Ellsworth.
So as we get started, why don't we get a sense of what OVH is and what your role is at the organization?
So OVH Cloud is we're a global hyperscaler. We're one of the lesser known ones, obviously, because the bigger ones are Azure, AWS, and GCP, and everybody talks about them because they're from our neighbor and they're enormous.
Right.
We're actually a European global hyperscaler, started off in France 20 years ago. And we expanded over here to Beauharnois, where we've got a large data center, which is built in an old Alcan factory over 10 years ago. Over 230 people here working now, and we offer all the main cloud services.
Okay.
Dedicated servers, VMware private cloud, and shared cloud services.
Okay.
These are the big boys.
So you're offering this almost similar or same technologies as the three big hyperscalers that we all tend to know of, right?
Exactly. I mean, we're smaller, so we have a smaller range of services, but we're more tightly focused to exactly the cloud services that customers need.
Right.
We don't have the bells and whistles wrapped around the top.
Okay. So this is your first. This is not your first time at GoSec, is it?
No, I've been here before. I love it here.
Okay. What are your thoughts of this year?
It's very, very good.
Yeah?
Lots of people here this year. Lots of activity at the booth. I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Honestly.
So given your company's description of what you do as you're a cloud offering service, I guess people are going to be wondering, like, why is he at this show? This is a security show, right? So actually, I had a particular question just for that, right?
Yes,
so that we can clarify some of that. So I actually wrote it down. So there's a lot of things that you will come across here. We talk about data breaches, especially around cloud, right? There's a lot of questions around cloud, obviously these days, right? Cloud's been around for a while now, but people are starting to settle into it, and they're starting to see, hey, we haven't set this up properly, and they're saying to think like, hey, the responsibilities on your end. No, it's like, so now we're looking at the responsibility model, right? So I had this question I wanted to ask you. So it's particularly around data breach, right? So in the event of a data breach, what are some of the legal obligations for an organization in Canada, and what steps should actually? That question's not for you.
That's not the question.
That's not the question for you.
No, I'd love to be able to answer that. No, I'm not going to. I'll answer the question you decided you were going to ask me.
What? So, in particular to what you guys do, one particular question I really wanted to ask you guys is, as a cloud provider, what is the most common misunderstanding about security that companies often have when they use your services?
Yeah. So thank you for the question, Ellsworth. I just better start with this disclaimer right up front, right? I'm going to talk as an employee of OVH Cloud,
right?
But I'm going to try and position this as a response from, in general, cloud providers, the large ones and the smaller ones, and OVH Cloud, of course. So I think we can all agree that cloud has been a go-to place for the last since the 2010s. Gartner and IDC have been saying you need to go to the cloud to take full advantage of all of the cloud opportunities, the flexibility, the price reductions, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the growth of the cloud business, we've seen that people are embracing that and businesses are moving more and more to it. And that's accelerated massively. So the scenario is, unfortunately, when you're moving from an environment that's been previously nicely protected, i.e. on-prem or in a co-location, and all your apps and data have been well protected like that, and you move it into a distributed environment like a cloud environment, there are always challenges. And the trouble is, when people move from a closed environment to a distributed environment, they assume certain things come with it. So I kind of identify probably 3 misunderstandings around security that people expect when they come to the cloud, but they don't always get. So the first one is, my data is secure in the cloud. Right, it's an obvious one.
Right.
And you think, well, I'm going to take all my data on my applications, I'm going to put them in the cloud, and they're going to be safe. Now, clouds are safe in general, right? Cloud is built in data centers. To get into a data center, it's like trying to get into a high security prison. It's virtually impossible. So physically, it's very safe. From a cybersecurity perspective as well, the cloud hyperscalers and the cloud companies are going to take an enormous amount of care and protect very preciously their software that enables you to use their services, right? So the control panels, anything they deliver to you. what you do when you put your data into their cloud, however, is they're not going to take responsibility for securing it for you. You really have to take the extra steps to take a look at it yourself and understand, is it secured correctly? So typically, people, when they put their data and applications in a cloud, they think it's secure, but the cloud environment is a great environment. It's an environment to receive their solutions, but it's not necessarily secure. You need to do that evaluation yourself or in conjunction with a third party, ideally a third party cloud agnostic security expert.
And do you let them know that they need to look at this, or is it, maybe written in your legal, papers that you provide to an onboarding client that, hey, that you need to look at securing your data in the cloud? Or
whenever we're talking to clients, positioning security is very, very important to us. But we don't have drop-down menus where you can have a dozen different security solutions, right? We're not like the real big boys. We have the basic solutions, but security is definitely a layer that you need to put on top. And it's a layer that we don't have expertise in, which is why we always suggest that every customer that they go to a third-party cloud-agnostic provider, a security provider, and look at what those recommendations are. Get them to examine the entire security posture of their business. Because also, when you ask someone from one cloud company to recommend a security posture, they're going to recommend their own security posture, right? And the best solution might not be one cloud. It might be multiple cloud, might be even some on-prem if you've got some really old legacy stuff. So you can be super careful about that. And that's one misunderstanding that we run into a lot.
Okay.
Do you want me to run through another couple? I've got two more.
Absolutely. Let's let them hear what those are.
I'll try and keep it brief.
No, because the question too is that, are you still coming across that? Are people still taking on cloud services thinking that, hey, it's all your responsibility. You should have been the one taking care of protecting my data, right?
So misunderstanding number two, and again, it's a security issue, is when I put my data in the cloud, it's going to be backed up. People seem to think that just happens automatically. It's shocking, but yes, I still see that. And not just small companies. Small companies where they don't have good advice, that happens a lot. Larger companies, I mean, we're not talking the massive ones with a large IT department. We're talking a medium-sized company that are moving their business to the cloud. They want to take advantage of it. They're trying to put their data into a cloud, their apps into a cloud, and leverage it where possible. And they seem to think that backup or DR, disaster recovery, comes with it as well. And it absolutely doesn't. You have to specify your backup policy. What do you want to do? What happens if there's an outage? What happens if there's ransomware? What are you going to do if your connectivity goes down? If your connectivity goes to the cloud, you're in trouble, right? Clouds are based in data centers. If data centers have some catastrophic outage, what's going to happen? And that, again, it's a responsibility of the customer, and to an extent, his security provider is also going to advise him about that, because backup data is important. So that's the second misunderstanding that I come across. And that happens quite a lot as well.
I bet. I bet. Okay.
And the third and final one is people assume that their data is private in the cloud. And this is a data sovereignty question. So there are businesses out there today, and a lot of legal businesses, and I think you've got PricewaterhouseCoopers here today, I'm sure they did make money on this as well, is they're building very lucrative practices around data sovereignty. And that's a real pitch that we have. I'm sorry I shouldn't pitch. It's in general, we're a little bit here because we're very strong on data sovereignty because we're a French company and we've got a tech company. We comply with Law 25. But the scenario is in Europe and in Quebec and getting wider across Canada with Law C27 when it comes through. In Europe, there's GDPR. These are data sovereignty regulations that put rules in place to keep people's data private. Unfortunately, not necessarily unfortunately, it's just a different way to look at it. The federal government in the US has put something in place called the Cloud Act, where the federal government has the right to go and get data on any US-owned company, even if it's outside of the borders of the United States. So that it tends to leave a whole gray area around where's data sovereignty and where's data residency. Because for the US, as if you're a US-based company, you're obligated to respond to the United States. So again, we comply to, No, I really shouldn't talk about OVH Cloud. I'll stop. Sorry, apologize for that.
No worries, no worries.
But the scenario is data. That is the third misunderstanding. Again, it's a security issue because it's about your data and who can go and get your data.
Right.
So that's the third misunderstanding that I encounter a lot. So those three security misunderstandings are the things that I encounter a lot. And that's really why we're here. We want to talk to people about things like that. We have partners. We have a partner with us today, CPU, who are a security company. I work with you from time to time. We talk about opportunities together to GoSecure, which some of the real advantages that GoSecure have as well for some of our customers.
Right.
So we wouldn't hesitate to call you guys either. But the thing that I would say to companies that are looking to move to the cloud, looking to take advantage of that scenario, really work with a third party, cloud agnostic, IT solutions or IT consultant or a security consultant. That's where you should go to make sure you're safe.
Okay, if you feel that you're having that conversation and the people are trying to, like you say, move their business forward, leveraging cloud, are these, suggestions that you provide to them, or do you feel that they're already coming to the table with this type of knowledge, or do you find it's still you need to educate them on, hey, these are some of the steps you need to take, right?
So me feeling I need to educate someone would be rather arrogant. I'm not sure I could do that.
Inform them, maybe.
I would. So whenever I speak to customers, and whenever in general our sales team speak to customers, I always make a point of trying to get everybody to say, look, ask them about security because it's extremely important.
Right.
And it's becoming more important. So yes, we always try and talk to our customers about security. We always try and inform our customers about backup and data residence, data sovereignty. But we don't necessarily tell them where they can go to get all of that. We can say, you need to speak to somebody like this.
Right.
And then they'll decide if they contact them or not. I can't force them to do that.
Okay.
And again, there's cost associated with this, right?
Right.
So I think the scenario for this sometimes is somebody thinking, well, I want to move to the cloud, but it's going to cost me X. I don't have my budget Y, which goes to cover the security aspect of it, which can be short-sighted if you think about losing all your revenue across the cloud for a few hours.
Right.
People tend to assume that things are going to work out okay, right?
Right.
And I've seen it happen, unfortunately.
It is. I mean, obviously we've seen stories like that, and I'm sure other people watching have heard stories like that. So, obviously, do your homework. Make sure you understand what you're getting involved with when you're working to move your data to the cloud. You can definitely speak to somebody like Chris that will help you with that process with OVH. So, Chris, I'd like to thank you for coming on. I'm sure we could take this conversation even further because cloud is such a big subject to discuss. But for the time that we're allotted today, I'd like to thank you for coming by. We'll leave it there, and we'll talk again.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Please hang up and try again.